today we have a Nintendo Switch, and it looks like this connector is a little bent out of shape. This is the SD card connector, and we're having issues of disconnects happening. Looks like it's kind of been mauled a little bit, so I think what we're going to go ahead and do is just replace it. So let's get the full board out, and I can show you what the new connector looks like, just so you can kind of see the comparison here of what it should look like. And these connectors, they're usually not designed for many uses. I think this is the little metal pieces on the side that got a little chewed up, maybe a little bit of the middle as well. But you know, if those little metal brackets are bent out, like this is bulging outward, it's not going to really stay in place very well. So let's go ahead and get the main board out, and we'll proceed with the replacement. So I want to try something a little bit different this time. What I want to do is I want to come in with some solder and just hit these points. See if I can hit the points around the edge. That way I can just lower the melting point. I want to be heating this board from the bottom to remove the old connector. I just don't want to damage any of these plastic connectors like I've done before. So let's just see what we can do. Just going to come in with some leaded solder. And I'm not worried about this connector at all, because it's whatever. Doesn't matter if the pin's bridge or whatever. Okay. Now let's turn this around. Let's see what I can do on this side without touching any of these smaller components. Okay. Now we're going to move on to heating. Okay, I'm going to have to put my keyboard tray in and move this over the edge of my table. And I'm going to position the microscope in a place where I can see it. And this is where I'm going to be working primarily for the rest of this job. I'm going to turn my hot air to 385 Celsius. Full air speed. Nothing's going to get blown off from the bottom. And I'm just heating from the bottom. I'm holding it a little bit away from the board. I'm just kind of wiggling it back and forth. Now that leaded solder is going to help prevent anything else from melting. It's not going to come close to damaging anything else on this board. And I'm going to look at this little peak right here, and we should start to see that get molten. Once things are ready to move, everything should come off nice and clean. No problems. And this is a thick board. It's like 10 layers or 12 layers or something. It's pretty insane. So there's a lot of copper here to heat up and saturate. Almost. Almost off. That looks great. Now we're just quickly going to come in with some fresh solder, and then we're going to wick it, and we'll redo these pads. And then we will put the new connector in place and heat it again. The board's nice and toasty. Let me trim this wick. So we have a little more space to work with clean wick. And I'm not pressing really hard. Okay. That's looking good, so let's clean it off with a Q-tip and some 99% IPA alcohol. Then what we're going to do is add some fresh flux. Try it off. Let's add some fresh flux, and we're going to put some fresh solder on those pads. Look at how small they are. I will switch to a different flux soon. Just trying to use some more of this before I do. There's some cool stuff that's a lot easier to clean up. Let me clean off my tip really well. It's like there's too much. Oh, almost just burned my finger. More flux. Maybe I can rotate this a little bit so I have better access to these pads, because this is going to be crucial. If there's not enough solder on each of those pads, then this won't work. Okay, let's clean it up, add some more flux, and then we'll go on to the heating process. Put the new connector on. Some of these are still a little spiky. It's one of those pads that doesn't, a couple of them that don't look good still. Do a little bit more. This is the part where I just want to take my time. right here. Want that solder to stick. Okay. I'm going to move this back to the position it was before. Like to clean it off just a little bit. Sticky residue. It's hard to tell if that's bridged. Probably is. Okay. Where's our new connector? Make sure my tweezers are cleaned off as well, because they're kind of sticky. I want to make sure this is lined up. It's coming with the hot air from the bottom. I want to wait until I see those peaks on the north side round out. That's going to tell me that it's molten. There it goes. And just like that, I lose the... Just lost my connector. Let's try it again. I want to make sure I hold the air steady where it needs to be. And get my little beanbag rest for my wrist here. And now I'm missing some solder. It's like I scraped it off. Yeah, a little bit of flux while it's still hot. That's good. And down here too. And right here in the middle. Easier to do this while it's hot. Okay, let's try one more time. It's looking good. Excuse this shaky. We pull the hot air away for a second. I'm gonna add some more flux. We're gonna heat one more time. I'm just going to press down gently on the middle. I think that's it. I'm gonna let it cool and then we'll check it out. So we'll be right back. If I do say so, that looks pretty good. I do want to take screenshots here so I could send that over. Those all look excellent. Here, we can get it even closer. If I just kind of manually pull that in. Look at those. That looks excellent. And the other side looks great as well. Let's turn it around so y'all can take a look. And it's just, in my opinion, in my experience, as long as you get those joints well wetted, well tinned before you do anything else, the rest is easy. Look at those excellent joints. Everything went perfect. Awesome. So let's go ahead and reassemble and test. Cool. So we got it together. I got the SD card on and everything seems pretty solid. I had done a test where I did transfer data to the SD card. We could try just the SNES. Let's see if we could do a transfer. Move data. Just because it's not too large, let's just see how long it takes. It shouldn't take super long. Let's do the NES. We'll say move. And it should be pretty quick. 1 minute. Yeah, so that I'm thinking it's using all the data lines now. I think before that old connector was loose and it would cause partial disconnect. And the customer was trying to use a custom firmware. And when you have an EMU NAND on an SD card, it requires all the data lanes. If there's a disconnect or partial disconnect, it'll shut down your custom firmware, but even though the switch OS will still see the card. So let's go ahead and move it back. We'll move that back. And that's going to be it. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next one.